What have we done with regard to the fight against corruption? We have done a lot.
Welcome back to Heads Up SA, the channel where we unpack South Africa's biggest political stories and give you the facts you need to stay ahead. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the conversation in the comments below. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has once again defended the ruling party against corruption allegations. Speaking to the media on the party's latest developments, Mbalula said the ANC has done very well against corruption, despite what opposition parties might claim. Mbalula argued that opposition parties will always speak ill of the ANC because that is their role in politics, but he insisted that doesn't mean their criticisms are correct.
Sometimes you don't get as to what is this criticism from sections of our society about the president, which not all, even future president, even if the president may not come from the ANC, will not be loved by everyone.
The Secretary General also touched on the matter of Naledi Pandor, the one that made headlines. Pandor said the organization or country leadership has to give answers instead of asking questions. Some interpreted this as a veiled critique of President Cyril Ramaphosa, but Mbalula dismissed that completely, saying Pandor was simply making the right statement at the right time on the right platform. Mbalula went further, saying you cannot compare Pandor's comments to those of Malusi Gigaba or Senzo Mchunu. According to him, Pandor's words carried weight and responsibility unlike the other examples.
You are just distorting what Sis Naledi was saying yesterday. Sis Naledi was reinforcing ANC policy in a public platform, talking about the values of what is expected from ANC members. In the platform where she was talking about Istwalandwe, Umamu Gertrude Shope. So she couldn't have said anything other than what she had to say there, which was correct. That we need a new cadre of renewal, which is correct. What Naledi was saying there. So I read in the newspapers, they say, no, Naledi must be disciplined. For what? Because she's saying the right things. That the leadership of the ANC and its veterans are expected to say and to remind us all the time that these things have got to happen. Not a leadership that says that you are failing. The leadership that says stay true to Gertrude Shope. You are just.
Now, here's the key point. Mbalula insists the ANC has been fighting corruption head-on, even though many South Africans remain skeptical. With multiple corruption scandals, state capture revelations, and ongoing investigations, critics argue the ANC is still struggling to restore credibility. So, what do you think? Has the ANC really done well in fighting corruption, as Mbalula claims? Or is this just more political spin ahead of the next elections? This is Heads Up SA. Don't forget to like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more stories that matter to you. Until next time, keep your heads up, SA.
Is continuing, whether good or bad, but the scrutiny of leadership of the country, that will always be done. Even if leadership is doing good work, there will be those who say we don't see what is happening in our. There will be those who say we don't see what is happening in our country. Whereas there is a lot of work that is being undertaken, including in the fight against corruption in South Africa. Steps against Senzo, Malusi, and I don't know why you add Naledi Pandor, because I think you are just distorting what Sis Naledi was saying yesterday. Sis Naledi was reinforcing ANC policy in a public platform, talking about the values of what is expected from ANC members. In the platform where she was talking about Istwalandwe, Umamu Gertrude Shope. So she couldn't have said anything other than what she had to say there, which was correct. That we need a new cadre of renewal, which is correct. What Naledi was saying there. So I read in the newspapers, they say no, Naledi must be disciplined. For what? Because she's saying the right things. That the leadership of the ANC and its veterans are expected to say and to remind us all the time that these things have got to happen. Not a leadership that says that you are failing. The leadership that says stay true to Gertrude Shope, for what Gertrude Shope stood for. That's what Naledi was saying. Unless Mahlengi can educate me better, that indeed Naledi deserves a reprimand. But I listened to her, and there's nothing to reprimand there. It's correct. It's what the ANC stand for, is what the ANC must do. Now, uh, uh, all other leaders of the ANC must reinforce the message of the ANC. And members of the ANC and leaders must speak to enhance the good standing of the ANC. Let's start with Naledi Pandor. Gertrude Shope, celebration, 100 years of Mam Gate, our stalwart, is Twaland. Great remembrance. Women of the ANC and society are there. What are you going to say there? You are supposed to be reminded of this person, what she stood for, and what we need to do. Media was quick to counterpose and distort and use AI about what Mama Naledi was saying when he was talking about leaders and what is expected of leaders, and that leaders must provide answers, and then they must lead from the front. And then they said Ramaphosa. And whereas he was challenging the entire leadership of the ANC and say, we are supposed to provide answers to the people. Isn't it what is expected of us? That is correct. It is expected of us that we must provide answers to the people at all material times, starting from President Ramaphosa downwards, leading from the front. President Ramaphosa can't provide answers alone. He provides leadership from the answers that are given by the collective he leads with. And if President Ramaphosa come across as not giving answers, it's a reflection on our collective as a leadership. If anyone were to say that, it's a reflection on us as a leadership. And in this particular instance, to very complex issues that confront us as a movement today, it is important that the leadership must be agile, must be dynamic. And we can only do that through collective brain, not alone. Coming together and say, here is a problem of unemployment. How do we overcome that? And then if leadership have reached inertia in terms of thinking, ceiling, then it's a reflection on the common, it's a reflection on the leadership. So, Mama Naledi Pandor did not veer anyhow from what is expected from her as a leader and a veteran of the ANC. She spoke like a veteran on the occasion that honored the veteran of the ANC. In my view, she was not even most quoted, she was distorted, to say the least. Because if you take a piece of something from what somebody says and then put it in a gossip column, you will not get the result. Look at it in its totality and the context of what this person was saying. I've listened to her. She said all the right things of what needs to be done. She was not critical of the ANC. She was, in fact, articulating the renewal project of the ANC. Now, if you are a member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, the NEC takes a decision and say, GNU is a tactical maneuver and intervention. NEC, you are a member. And then the media says, you said this GNU you did not agree with. You don't want it. You don't want the DA. Who likes the DA? We don't like the DA. We don't like the GNU. But GNU is a tactical maneuver out of many other options on the table. And everybody, as we characterize it right from the onset, that it brings on board not necessarily people who agrees, but it brings on board people ideologically who are on the opposite, including the DA. All the political parties who are there are ideologically on the opposite. Majority of them are opponents of the ANC, including the DA, Freedom Front Plus, and all other parties that are there. Very few chose not to come in for their own reasons. But we have said as the ANC, GNU is not a strategic end, it's a tactical maneuver. It means at some point it will come to an end. If it comes to an end, the GNU, because others decide to withdraw, all of them, and leave the GNU, that will be fine. But GNU, from where we stand, will come to an end because the masses will define what must happen for this country. And the ANC chose the path of the GNU. Now, that is a decision of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, that all members of the NEC are bound by it, and members of the ANC are bound by it, even those who don't agree with it. Like I explained to you earlier on, that we had many options on the table in terms of government of national unity. We had minority government. We had an option of an election. We had co-governance between two political parties and all of that. But we chose GNU for everybody to come and participate. So in this particular instance, it is a position of the ANC, unless it is reviewed by the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. We don't have dissent in the organization around that. We do. There are members of the ANC who said, no, we don't understand. That's why, as the national leadership, we went to the ground and explained to members of the ANC why we took that decision as the African National Congress. In the moment that we are in as an organization. So members of the National Executive Committee have got a burden unto themselves to explain this difficult decision of the organization. In 1990, the ANC goes to Groote and meet with the apartheid regime and pronounce on the Groote minute. And Chris Hani is in Transkei, confined there by the apartheid regime and all of that. And then well looked after there by General Olomisa. And then he wake up as a leader of the ANC. Here is Mandela and the rest of the leadership with de Klerk and so on. Chris Hani says, when he speaks to us, that when he saw that, he was aggrieved. He started to remember many comrades who perished in the camps and died as members of Umkhonto weSizwe, and here the ANC comes and announces that the armed struggle is suspended. It was even before the Groote minute, I think. And then here the ANC leadership announces that the armed struggle is suspended. But Chris Hani says, as a disciplined member of the ANC, I had to abide by the decision that I was uncomfortable with. Okay? That decision was uncomfortable. Chris Hani says that the chief of staff of Umkhonto weSizwe, a member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. Now, the ANC arrives at the elections in 2024 and then achieves 40%. How do you govern with 40%? Are you going to reset the button, start the elections, and do all of those things? The organization says, no, we don't go for Grand Coalition, we go for GNU, which must actually take us over the line and defend the National Democratic Revolution. Now, leave the title. Let's look at the GNU and the NDR today. Has the NDR been suffocated by GNU? To a certain extent, yes. It has suffered a setback because we can no longer take decisions that we wanted to take to accelerate transformation on our own. Even passing the budget, you could see, whether you like it or not, you can't pass it on your own. It has to happen with others, the greater participation of others. But the ANC has been able to do things that affirm the National Democratic Revolution. Somebody writes on social media and say, I don't understand how this becomes a sellout position when this government have implemented NHI, have implemented Bella Bill, and is going on, and then expropriation. Why we are hated today by sections of our society, and if you look at those sections, are people who are anti-transformation. And under the government of national unity, the ANC with its 40% have held on to the acceleration of transformation, which we call the National Democratic Revolution in South Africa. So where is the sellout position there? Let's not debate what is black or white in the GNU in terms of what is the DA and everybody else. Let's debate where are we failing to advance the NDR. Of course, we've got constraints, and we must fight back from this 40% going forward. So I'm saying to you, there's no discipline. There's nobody who's been disciplined. People have been reminded and have been reprimanded. There's no discipline. If we take a person to a discipline, is when we take somebody and then charge that somebody. The National Executive Committee have said that those who cross the line undermine the cohesion of our organization, deliberately so. We must quickly confront them by all means. We must draw the line, and that's what we have done. And that's why we have reminded NEC members that you are going astray. They are not being disciplined. But should you continue, we've got no option. We'll have to take you to the DC. That does not mean that people cannot go to your podcast, cannot go anywhere and be interviewed and all of that, but stay online in terms of the decisions of the organization. You cannot become an independent member of the NEC or an independent member of the National Executive Committee. And I wish to make it very clear that if NEC members, who some of them are notable figures in society, They are great political influencers that you, as the media, tap on their knowledge from time to time and wish to engage with them, which we appreciate as the ANC. Nobody's debarred from engaging. But when they do that, they must bear the responsibility that they've accepted in a conference of the ANC to become leaders. And leadership comes with responsibility. You are not independent when you are a leader. You've got to lead from the front. You've got to explain the most difficult positions of the ANC. You don't become a populist. I saw one thing today where there was a fake about Makura, that Makura said this. It's fake news. And then Makura was able to articulate that no, it's fake news. And then we're able to check even with Citizen. There is no such. Citizen said, no, we never published such a thing about Makura. And then we put a sticker of fake news. And Makura himself did that. Now, if I am Mbalula, I go to Lunga, he interviews me at Mail and Guardian and distort me. Like somebody distorted me and said that I said ANC will be 30%. The onus is on me. The onus is on me and the publication to clarify that I was distorted. I went to a publication here, TV, and then after I've left, they said I attacked General Mkwanas. And then somebody on Twitter insulted me based on that. And then I clarified that I didn't. I said what Mkwanas is raising borders on lawlessness for the country and a banana republic, and it must be investigated. Not Mkwanas. Maybe English, we don't understand it properly, all of us. But that's what I said. I said that the things that he's talking about suggest lawlessness and borders on us being a banana republic, and that must be investigated. And then somebody said Mbalula is attacking Mkwanazi. He says that Mkwanazi, Mkwanazi is promoting banana republic and everything, and that was clarified. I was interviewed, not Mahlenge, me. I've got a responsibility with the publication to clarify that matter. So I cannot clarify matters of NEC members and their statements in secret. They must, if you are misquoted by a newspaper, write a statement and say, Lunga, SAPC, you misquoted me. And that is why I am defending Naledi Pandor here today, because she said all the right things on behalf of the ANC. As a veteran, I'm very proud about what she said. That's what all leaders and veterans of the ANC must continue to say, especially on platforms like those. If you tell us as a movement, for instance, which you are on the platform of Mama Katie, you've got to say the truth and constructively. And that is what it is. And that is the renewal program of the African National Congress. But you can't be an independent member of the National Executive Committee. And members of the NEC said, we must deal with that particular matter. UFM, I've clarified the issue of Naledi Pandor. Reset on the GNU button. What is this criticism from sections of our society about the president, which not all, even future president, even if the president may not come from the ANC, will not be loved by everyone. But let's look at what are the fundamentals. This country confronted, when Ramaphosa came in, economic meltdown, big corruption, projected even till today in the public discourse. And then whilst we're dealing with economic recession, global recession, and all of that that affected us, we then had to concur with COVID-19. Now, the question is, how did Ramaphosa's administration, when he came in, dealt with those issues? Of course, first, we'll admit that we are not making headways in terms of the economy, which is key, because the economy must create jobs. The economy must do a whole lot of things in order to cushion its citizens. Not everybody wants to be on social security net. People want to work. And then government has got to create these opportunities, working with everybody to create jobs. So we must admit that we've got to accelerate on the question of industrialization as part and parcel of our interventions in the economy. We agreed that must happen. And that agenda must be felt by everybody. We have seen industries disinvesting in our country and all of that at the moment when we thought they will actually come in numbers and invest in our economy. Will you say the president, the seventh administration is failing in that? They are not doing anything about it. I think the critical question is, to what extent our social compact, private sector, business, and labor, is actually finding expression in the industries to create jobs for our people. And that is what government must roll up the sleeves, all hands on deck, to actually accelerate. What have we done with regard to the fight against corruption? We have done a lot. And an account is being given. You might not see people in red overalls, but billions and billions of rands have been recovered. Assets have been freezed of those who are implicated in corruption. Of course, South Africans want to see prominent kingpins implicated in corruption behind the bars. And that's one aspect that means strengthening of institutions of the state, which have been eroded over time, remains critical in terms of this work. NPA, the Hawks, and all of that need to be strengthened and supported in this fight against corruption. Criminal elements who are implicated in corruption and all of that are sophisticated. You can't have a state that does not have a capacity to bring them to book. And that is why, in the reshaping of institutions that have been eroded over time, bringing back scorpions not in name have actually been effected by government. COVID-19, we have always said that the effects of that, will see them in the long term, and we are grappling with that. If you go to Sandton now, and then you look at the shops there that have closed down, just in Sandton, if you walk around there, since COVID-19, they've not come back. And the biggest hotel, Michelangelo, and all of that, is still closed. It's since closed since COVID-19. So we have said that the ripple effect of that, will see it in the long term. But there are positive spin-offs that we see, in terms of the economy, in terms of the social compact, that are going to bring back these industries and ensure that there is boom again in the economy. Unless we are able to answer that question and answer it convincingly, otherwise everything else will just become a paper, a resolution. So we need to address that, and government and the president leading from the front are focused on that particular point. Building social cohesion in society and all of that, that program continues in our country under the leadership of the president and the seventh administration. And of course, we are now in the seventh administration under a government of national unity. And